Here. Okay. Well, I'm delighted to present Dylan Selterman to you, who is one of our more advanced students in the program, and Dylan is now on the job market. I have the distinct pleasure of being one of his letter writers, so I know how terrific he is. And one of the things I spend a lot of time writing about in my letter is what a great teacher Dylan is. So I'm sure he's going to give a wonderful talk today on global and daily associations between attachment, relationship variables, and dream content. And I'll pass around the attendance sheet.
Thanks very much, Marcy, and thank you all for coming. I'm really happy to be here and excited to present my research on dreams. Just a quick note of how I'm going to organize the talk. I'm going to spend most of my time talking about study one, which is my dissertation research. Hopefully there'll be a little bit of time at the end I can talk to you about a follow-up study that I'm currently running and some preliminary findings, some qualitative findings from that study. But mostly I'm going to talk about my dissertation, and I'm going to try to move quickly through the theory and the background, so if any of you have any questions or if you want me to repeat something, feel free to interrupt at any point. So in the 1970s, John Bowlby defined attachment theory as a way of conceptualizing the propensity for human beings to make strong affectional bonds to particular others. And since its inception, attachment theory has spawned a really big area of research in terms of studying parent-child relationships, personality differences, and functioning in romantic relationships. In the 1990s, researchers led by Patrick McNamara synthesized a body of evidence that supported the idea of a connection between rapid eye movement sleep and, by proxy, dreaming and attachment bonds. This stems from neurological and behavioral evidence. In the realm of neurology, we see high activation of brain systems that are associated with attachment functioning, the amygdala and the limbic system. We also see a flooding of neurochemicals associated with attachment, oxytocin, vasopressin. And in terms of behavioral evidence, we see that there are differences in sleep patterns as a function of secure versus insecure attachment. In particular, infants who are insecurely attached have a higher frequency of sleep disorders, more night awakenings, and actually measurably decreased amounts of rapid eye movement sleep. Stemming from this, researchers have started to examine any connections between attachment and dream contents. Mike Shretl did a study where he looked at dreams that involve romantic partners and found that people who were in committed relationships dreamt more of their partners than single people did of potential partners, thus demonstrating a kind of bonding mechanism through dreams. Patrick McNamara and his colleagues in 2001 found that people who rated themselves as higher in attachment anxiety had dreams with more high-intensity images, and they had more aggressive and self-denigrating themes in their dreams. And by the way, I can make these slides available if any of you are scribbling down notes or anything. I mean, I appreciate that you're paying so much attention, but I can definitely make these PowerPoint slides available to you later on. Mickelenser and Shaver and their colleagues did a study where they took a sample of dreams from people. They had people complete a diary for 30 days and coded a subset of those dreams, which they labeled distress dreams, for certain attachment behaviors. One is support seeking, the other is support availability from an attachment figure, and the third is distress relief. And they found that attachment anxiety correlated negatively with support availability and distress relief. So the more anxious you are in your close relationships, the less you're going to have of support availability and distress relief in dreams. And with avoidance, they found negative correlations with support seeking and support availability. And this fits with our conception of attachment styles, with avoidant people being more resistant to closeness and intimacy, and anxious attached people experience a kind of hyperactivation and kind of a desperately seeking closeness. They also coded the dreams. That was the same sample, actually, the same sample of dreams, coded with the core conflictual relationship theme method, and they found that attachment avoidance positively correlated with negative representations of others and a desire for increased independence and less proximity. And with attachment anxiety, they found kind of the opposite pattern of results, positive correlations with strong desire for closeness and proximity in such dreams. And one other study I'll mention was a study that I actually had published with my undergraduate advisor, Steve Dragotis. We looked at a sample of individuals who were in committed dating relationships, and we had them keep a dream diary from 1 week. We specifically examined dreams that contained romantic partners, and we found that attachment avoidance and anxiety both predicted how much stress, conflict, and anxiety people had in their dreams. Now that was coded, so that was not self-reported by participants in the study. So in summary, we have some evidence for connection between waking attachment styles and sleeping patterns and dream content. So where do we go from here? In the current study, I'm going to incorporate a couple of other theories from the dream research literature as well as the relationship research literature. We're also going to, in this study, look at daily interactions with romantic partners. So not just what they're reporting globally, but what they're experiencing with their romantic partners day to day. We are having participants report directly on the emotions that they feel in their dreams. And this is an important distinction because previous research has shown that there's a difference in prevalence of negative and positive emotions depending on whether it's coded or reported by people directly. And the last thing I have here is coding for specific relational behaviors, which I'll explain later on, but we're actually going to code the dreams for specific things that people do with their romantic partners. In terms of other theories of dreams that I'm going to bring in, the continuity theory of dreams is a very overarching, broad conceptualization of how waking life relates to dreams. And in a nutshell, it basically says that continuity represents correspondence. If we experience something in our lives, it will manifest itself in dream content. If we have interactions with people in our lives, we'll dream about those people. Emotions, ideas, behaviors, specific events will appear in dreams. And this is an interesting quote from Bill Domhoff, who is a strong supporter of the continuity theory. Young adults primarily dream about shopping, playing sports, visiting friends, arguing with parents, worrying about the faithfulness of their lovers, or feeling tempted to be unfaithful themselves. And we'll see lots of that in my study. Within the umbrella of continuity theory, we have problem solving, which is it's basically continuity with a functional purpose. That not only do we dream about things that we experience in our life, but it serves to help us replay scenarios that we experience to help us in a kind of rehearsal function so that we can better equip ourselves to handle our lives going forward. William Demmett, this is an interesting example. This is not related to relationships research at all, but it's kind of an interesting example. In the 1970s, he did an experiment where he gave a group of college students a group of brain teasers and told them rather than try to solve the brain teasers, just to think about them for 15 minutes before they go to sleep each night. Here's one of them. The letters O, T, T, F, F form the beginning of an infinite sequence. Find a simple rule for determining any or all successive letters. According to your rule, what would the next two letters be? Has anyone seen this before? You've seen it. Okay. So, a few people actually dreamt the solution to the brain teaser. Here's an example of one such dream. I was walking down the hall of an art gallery. I began to count the paintings, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, but as I came to the 6th and 7th, the paintings had been ripped from their frames. I stared at the empty frame. Suddenly I realized the 6th and 7th spaces were the solution to the problem. The sequence is the first letter of each number. So 1 has O, 2 has T, etc., etc. S and S would be the next two. So it's an interesting example of how dreams can literally serve this functional purpose, but it's also important to know that this rarely happens. And this kind of continuity and this kind of functional problem solving appearing directly in a dream, in the study they did with 500 students, 7 of them experienced this. So the best we can say about correspondence is that it happens sometimes. And some studies have found evidence for it, some have not. Along the same lines is the social or emotional adaptation theory of dreams. And basically this is saying, yes, we have this adaptive purpose to dreams, it helps us solve problems, but they're specifically related to overcoming stress and dealing with interpersonal problems. And some interesting work by Rosalind Cartwright has shown, she studies depressed women, she found that depressed women who are divorced, who dream of their ex-husbands, are actually going to fare better later on in terms of their mental health generally and less likelihood of relapsing into depression. This happens even if the content of the dream is negative in its tone or its emotional quality. Irrelevant positive dreams do not have that effect on increased mental health. So there's very real implications for in the clinical realm for people's mental health in terms of dreams. Another study from the health psych literature found that former smokers who had been abstinent for a few months and had dreams about smoking were less likely to relapse. So again, we're seeing that people are incorporating, the logic behind this is that if people are experiencing negative emotions, if they're feeling guilt in their dreams with reference to a specific behavior, that will make them less likely to do that behavior when they wake up and they go about their ordinary lives.